All right, so this is a continued series about creating an AI-powered adaptive card web part. Now, the whole point of this series is to try to fit in every single feature, every single capability in a web part in a way that makes sense, just to educate people about some of the lesser-known features. And today is probably going to be one of the easiest one. We're going to talk about we talked about data connectivity last week. Now we're going to, or last time, now we're going to talk about full bleed rendering. What is full bleed rendering? It sounds gruesome. It's just a different term for full width section. So in SharePoint, you have web parts that will that will fit inside of a full width section, and they will actually expand. They won't be limited. Most web parts will limit the width that they can use, regardless of the amount of space that's available to them. And that's really what full bleed rendering full width is. I had to fit that in there, right? Nobody makes me full bleed my web part, if you're fans of dodgeball. But what does full bleed come from, right? What's the term full bleed? Well, in print design, when you print a page, normally you need to have margins on the side of the paper. And if you want color, images, graphics, whatever, to go all the way to the edge of the paper, normally what you do is you print the content larger than the pages, and then you trim the paper down to the sides. And if you look at the side of the paper, there's ink, and so that ink is called the bleed. So full bleed literally means that the design intentionally extends past the normal boundaries so that it reaches kind of the edges. And that's what full bleed web parts are all about. Let's do a demo. So this is a full bleed web part. This is right here is a regular web part. And you'll notice that regular web parts will usually fit in an area, and I don't even need to highlight that. You get to see it. But let's see what happens when I edit my page. And I'll get rid of this stuff here. You'll notice that not every web part known to man shows up right here, only a few. And that's because only the web parts that are designed to support full bleed will show up here. And you'll notice that my web part that we've been working with, the Enhanced Web Part Builder, supports full bleed. So when I select it, the first thing you'll notice is you don't have the borders around the padding and stuff like that. It goes all the way to the edges of the screen. And that only happens when that web part is placed in a full bleed section, or full width section. If I pick a template here, let's just use, I'll just say something static here. You'll notice that the content, even though this is an adaptive card web part, the content renders at full width without any margins. And I had to make some changes to my CSS rendering. To do that, I had to remove all the padding within the padding within the padding. But I did that in the first place because I had to do that for rendering adaptive cards within web parts, because adaptive cards will always put some spaces around. Let's use a different template here. This one is a data-driven template, so I should probably put some data in here. Data, there you go. So see, the full width rendering can be pretty cool. I should probably fix the contrast here, but you know, full width or full bleed rendering can be pretty cool on a web part. But how do I get it to do that? Well, it is so easy that I'll show you. So if you want to consider that code, right, there's only one line that I need to change in my JSON, my manifest JSON. And here it is. supports full bleed equals true. If you put that in and you bundle your web part, the web part will appear as a web part that can be added in a full width section. Now, there are some, well, that's it. That's all. That's the only code there is. Supports full bleed equals true. Now, there's a few things to understand about full width rendering. The first thing is most UX research shows that the optimal line length for reading is about 45 to 75 characters, and the sweet spot is about 60 to 66 character. You can see the text that I'm showing here is easy to read, right? And that's usually the space that most books, most newspapers, most papers, websites, and most documentation will always try to fit the text so it fits within 45 to 75. Because what happens when you read is your eyes, if I can find my cursor, your eyes read across like this, then it commits to memory, or your brain parses the meaning, then it goes to the next line, and that's called the saccade. If you are dyslexic or ADHD, you may actually have shorter saccades that you need to combine together. But the point is, optimally for most people, this range here is best for reading speed, comprehension, and reduce the drop of comfort. If we look at something like this, where this is hard to probably read because the font is small, but a full width content on a widescreen could easily reach 150 to 200 characters per line. And so when the lines are longer like that, it affects reading speed, it affects comprehension. And because the eyes have to travel too far, it's harder to find the start of the line when you're scanning. So the saccade is slower, which means that your cognitive load increased, the amount of effort mentally that you need to do, and to understand the content, and the readers, they're placed more often. So research shows that you will have actually higher abandonment. People will just stop reading what you have on your page. And that's why serious content sites will never, ever, ever go edge to edge for body text. So then, according to research, what's the best use of full bleed or full width content? Well, you should look at things like data tables, things like dashboards, right, where it's visual and it's impactful. You could look at any form of data visualizations, right, things on a map or something like that, and any image heavy content like I had on my dashboard earlier. What research shows is that they constantly reframe it as you optimize for reading first and scanning second, right? That's when you use full bleed, full width. It's hard to say. All right, so we talked about full bleed rendering. Next time in our series, we'll talk about multimodality, which is different ways to use AI in your web part. That will include things like vision and speech and things like that. But for now, if you have any questions or you want more information, you can read more about adaptive cards, and you can use the article on how to use web parts with the full width column at the links on the screen. That's it for me.